barrels of oil per day for the past 50 years. Mr. President, the community claims that there are about 4 international oil producing companies in that area, and that as of today, the community is worse off than these 4 oil companies merging. There is nothing to show for their 50 years of operations in the area. Not one person from the community is a staff of that of the oil companies. No scholarship, no employment, and all infrastructure not provided. Mr. President, this community believes that all the efforts they have made over the years to seek the attention of federal government and other agencies have failed. But under you, this Senate will look into their matter and come to their rescue. Their case cannot be different from others. This is a clear case of oil costs.
Come on, you come and lead the petition. Petition is referred to Ethics and Privileges report back in 2 weeks. Let me quickly acknowledge staff and students of Daryl Hickman International Academy, Dutse Alaji Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe our proceedings. I wish you a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. Leader of the Senate.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah, point of order, Senator Otazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Otazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I come from a point of order, order 43, personal explanation. By the indulgence of the Senate and leave of the President, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter to be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President and the Senate when the leave to make is sought. Mr. President, I've talked with you and got this leave to discuss, to bring the issue that is happening in Niger Delta Power Holding Company. That is an outcome of the act made by the National Assembly. This Niger Delta Power Holding Company is there to make things work for our people and make sure that the problem of power that has been the major cause of the private sector not driving the economy of this country to be a lingering issue. We discovered from the petition and the information coming from the staff there that the staff, they will have a cog in the wheel in that place, Mr. President. That if nothing is done and done seriously, that the whole interest this country has placed on that body will come to naught. And because there is infighting, there is an executive director that is there that is making things very difficult in that establishment. And I'm asking Mr. President that you cause the committee on steel development, metallurgy and power to investigate this matter seriously. Call them to order and invite them to hear from them before somebody who is put in that place disorganizes the whole place and make the very important staff that have been assembled, foreign and international and local, that are put there to make sure that things work for ourselves.
Thank you. Senator Tazi, as you know, you've come under personal explanation and cannot be further debate. But I hope Senator Baribe who has the power committee should be able to take this up and let us know where we are and give us a feedback as soon as possible. So I'll refer that Senator Abaribe to take this as Chairman Power. Thank you. Yes, Senator Misao.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, Senator Comrade Isa Hama Misao, representing Bauchi Central. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 42 and 52. The Order 42, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 52, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except the consent of the President of the Senate and the General of the Senators present. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to raise an observation, or I want to bring to our notice what happened to one of our colleagues.
Distinguished colleague, distinguished Senator, you read the rules, and I'm sure you know that you have not yet complied with the rules. So I'll give an opportunity to comply, and then after you comply, you can now come back later with the motion. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Suleiman Hungi on the Aged Persons Welfare Agency Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Mr. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Aged Persons Welfare Agency Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 606, first reading.
Aged Persons Welfare Agency Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 606, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in name of Senator David Umaru on the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act S 56 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Sheriffs and Civil Process Act Cap S 56 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018 SB 599, first reading.
Sheriffs and Civil Process Act, Cap S56 LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 599, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Theodore Oji on the Federal Polytechnic Abia State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic Abia State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 602, first reading.
Federal Polytechnic Abia State Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 602, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Mao Ohuabunwa on the Federal Polytechnic ITEM Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Polytechnic ITEM Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 607, first reading.
Federal Polytechnic Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 607, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters on the Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Emmanuel Walker, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Walker.
I will then discuss it across.
Mr. President,
But I will discuss it.
dear colleagues, Leader Polka Emmanuel is my name. I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Establishment on the Southeast Development Commission, etc. Bill 2018 SB 303. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Senate President. I so support the motion moved by my colleagues. I so move.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service on the Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, SB 303. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Polka, if you come and lead the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters on the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Emmanuel Polka, Chairman of the Committee, to move motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Polka.
Mr. President, Leader Polka Emmanuel is my name. I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service on the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria, etc. Bill 2018 SB 424. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Golan Dada.
Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues. I rise to that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Services of the Southeast Development Commission, Bill 2. Third one, sorry. That the Senate do receive the report of the Committee of Establishment and Public Services of the Eastern State Development Commission, Bill 2018 SB 242.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters on the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 218. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Polka, you come and lead the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Small Claims Court Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Electoral District. I rise to move the motion that the Senate will receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Small Claims Court Establishment, ETC Bill 2018 SB 44. I so move.
Senator Rozoko.
My name is Rose Oko, Cross River North. I rise to
second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Small Claims Court Establishment Bill 2018, SB 44.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on Small Claims Court Establishment Bill 2018 SB 44. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David Moro, come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of the nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. Mr. President, once again, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to move the motion that the Senate to receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam. I so move.
Senator Danjumala, Kaduna South.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Danjuma, I represent Kaduna South. I rise to second the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters that the Senate will receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Small Claim Court Established, etc. Bill 2018. It is now. That the report of the Committee on the Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on the Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of the nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai, Imam of appointment as the Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Muru, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and Foreign Affairs on the urgent need to regularize the agreement between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and United Kingdom on the transfer of sentenced persons. Mr. President, once more, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and Foreign Affairs on the motion for the urgent need to regularize the agreement between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the government of the United Kingdom on the transfer of the sentenced persons. I so move.
Senator Mohammed Hassan, Yobe South.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mohammed Hassan, Yobe South. I rise to second the motion that the Senate will receive the report of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and Foreign Affairs on the motion for the urgent need to regularize the agreement between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Government of United Kingdom on the transfer of sentenced persons. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and Foreign Affairs on the motion for the urgent need to regularize the agreement between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Government of the United Kingdom on the transfer of sentenced persons. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Senator David Moore, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in my name on withholding of assets. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move the motion. Can I? The Senate recalls that the President CNC had signified withholding of his assent on the Federal University of Bukhari Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, pursuant to Section 58, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. The Senate notes that the rationale for withholding the assent are regarding such words and phrases utilized in the bill that are inconsistent with similar extant laws. Relying on Order 88B of the Senate rule, the Senate accordingly resolves to refer the bill to the Conference Committee to look into the President CNC observations and report back in 1 week. I so move, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the bill be referred to a Conference Committee to look into the President's observations and report back in a week's time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be referred to Conference Committee to look into it and report back in 1 week, those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Magnus Abe and 22 others on the urgent need to investigate, regularize, and amend conflicting, vague, and unjust remedies with the Central Bank of Nigeria, which the Central Bank of Nigeria offers to victims of excess and arbitrary bank charge and illegal deductions by commercial banks. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Magnus Abe to move the motion.
Senator Magnus Abe.
Mr. President, my very distinguished and eminent colleagues, this is a motion on the urgent need for the Senate to investigate, regularize, and amend conflicting, vague, and unjust remedies which the Central Bank of Nigeria offers to victims of excess and arbitrary bank charges and illegal deductions by commercial banks. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this motion is sponsored by my humble self and 22 other eminent senators in these chambers. The Senate notes that over the years, commercial banks in Nigeria have indulged in sharp practices of overcharging customers and depositors arbitrarily and excessively, contrary to tariff stipulations, credit, and monetary guidelines issued from time to time by the CBN. Aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria on the 20th of February reported that it had recovered over 2.6 billion naira from depositors' funds from banks as excess charges imposed on their customers in 2015 alone, through a statement issued by the Director, Corporate Communications of the Central Bank, that in 2015 alone, the Apex Bank, the CBN, investigated over 6,000 of such cases. Concerned that several of the Central Bank of Nigeria applicable rules that should remedy such hardship and discourage sharp practices by the commercial banks are conflicting, vague, and unjust to the customers, thereby allowing the commercial banks to frequently shortchange their customers. Further concerned that requests made by the bank customers to the CBN for clarification of the rules are largely ignored, worried that if this trend is allowed to continue unabated, Nigerians will be worse for it, while the commercial banks will continue to declare huge profits at the expense of innocent Nigerians, from regular depositors to business firms. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we observe that some of these conflicting, vague, and unjust rules include, but are not limited to, the following: APG accounts irregularity. Some banks charge at its lending rates, but pay no interest to the customer on the APG deposits, while technically the bank is lending the customers part of its own funds in the APG account. The CBN has enjoined banks to maintain a 7 basis points between their lending and deposit rates, but they only do this on moral suasion. There is no specific and enforceable rule or rates on this matter. Interest on credit balances in customers' accounts. These monetary and credit policy guidelines issued by the federal government state that banks must continue to pay interest on credit balances on customers' accounts where negotiated. The banks argue that customers did not negotiate and so are not entitled to interest. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, most customers are not even aware of the existence of this right. The burden of communicating this right verifiably must rest on the commercial banks. Consequently, not coming forward to negotiate should not amount to a loss of this right. The CBN should set a standard policy of interest payment for all credit balances. The 6-year status barred rule. Recently, the CBN, by their circular FPRO/DFIRO/GEN/CIRO/01/045 dated the 16th of February 2015, introduced a time limit of 6 years for the resolution of complaints effective from the date of a transaction. It stated that the circular did not apply to fraud cases. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, it is noteworthy that excess, arbitrary, and illegal deductions are by their nature and content fraudulent. The unavailability and access to documents that was given as a reason for this rule cannot be applicable or tenable in this information technology age, where all documents can be stored technologically. Also, sir, publish rate differentials. The CBN on the 6th of January 2010 passed a circular ESD/DIRO/CIRO/04/001. This circular is to the effect that banks publish all charges and commissions levied by them, fully disclosing their maximum rates in all publications. When non-compliant banks are confronted, they insist that the publication is merely a guide and not compulsory or enforceable. The CBN connives in this argument that non-compliance with published rates did not amount to a contractual offense. This is simply a deception. Banks that exceed published rates ought to refund the excess to customers. Interest payable on due refunds. The Inspectorate Department of each bank is mandated to monitor and ensure refunds to customers where non-payments or underpayments of interest on deposit accounts. The rule is that the refunds should be made with interest at the prevailing bank's maximum lending rate, along with an apology letter to the customer within 2 weeks. Failure to refund excess charges or underpayment of interest rates attract a penalty amounting to 100% of the amount involved. The banks have continually refused to pay interest, mischievously hoping to be compelled to pay a lower rate when reported to the Bankers Committee, which calculates the rate to be paid at Treasury bill rate plus a 2% penalty. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is also clearly unfair. Multiple accounts and debt service reserve accounts irregularity. To obtain loans from banks, desperate customers are forced to open separate accounts by the banks where a certain percentages of receipts from the customer's income is held for servicing of indebtedness. Consequently, substantial credit balances in these accounts are without any credit interest, while the current accounts, which will have large debit balances in favor of the bank, continue to take their maximum interest. This is certainly unfair. Mr. President, my distinguished and eminent colleagues, there are a whole lot of other practices by our banks which amount in several ways to unjustifiably milking customers of their hard-earned money. While we are not opposed to the interest of the banks in making profits because it is part of their business, we feel that it is important that these banks be made to realize that Nigerians too also have a desire and an interest to make money. And they cannot continue to be taking little amounts from Nigerians every day. And at the end of the day, this amounts to the billions of naira that they declare as profits. Furthermore, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, there are millions of accounts in several banks in this country today that are being termed as dormant, where the customers have died or moved on in one way or the other. All these monies are lying in the vaults of our commercial banks that rightly belong to Nigerians who are suffering outside in the streets. Accordingly, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, the Senate resolves to 1. Urge the government to proactively protect customers' rights, eradicate short payments of interest, and end the culture of excess and arbitrary bank charges. These steps, if taken, will reposition the banks to avert further recurrence of all these sharp practices. 2. Direct our Committee on Banking to conduct an investigative hearing, invite the CBN Governor, his officials, and other stakeholders, such as forensic editors, the managers of these commercial banks and bankers' committees, with a view to harmonizing and amending these laws, rules, and guidelines that do not adequately protect the customers, and also to give them substantial remedy when they are overcharged. 3. Mandate the committee to thoroughly investigate the CBN and commercial banks' operational charges with a view to finding an enduring solution that will guarantee and protect the rights and interests of commercial bank users in this country, and to report back to the Senate for further legislative action. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I believe that several Nigerians have suffered in one way or the other, but they are voiceless because when the bank takes a little money from you, you look at the amount that is involved and the trouble that you need to go through to fight for your right, you decide to leave it. They take a little money from Mohammed, take a little from Obinna, take a little from Toyin. At the end of the day, it becomes the billions that is in the vault of the banks. I believe that it is the responsibility of this Senate to speak on behalf of the millions of voiceless Nigerians that do not have the means to pursue their rights. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Bocha.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to support this motion, Mr. President, simply because of the interest of over 50 million Nigerians who are depositors in commercial banks and do business on a daily basis. This, Mr. President, is one area that Nigerians don't seem to care about. But the monumental fraud that takes place in this sector, the banking sector, is a very fearful one. Mr. President, I appreciate this motion because it exposes the ills, like I said, the fraud associated with this sector. I had cause to discuss with a friend sometimes, and some of these issues have been overlooked. If somebody sit down and calculate what it means, 10 naira into 50 million, it becomes a huge money. And this, outside of the depositors' account, those who either have died or have gone into one challenge of life or the other. I think this motion is very, very important, that it cannot be reduced to just the committee on banking and the banks or the CBN. I think there is need, even for a public hearing, Mr. President, that most Nigerians who have a lot to share with us that we don't know can come to share, particularly experts, maybe accounting experts and the like. This is a very important motion, Mr. President, in an era that we claim to be fighting corruption, and we ignore this sector. I think we are just doing eye service to the fight against corruption. This is one critical area that if we focus on this, Mr. President, it will save a lot of Nigerians the pains they are going through. This is very important, Mr. President. I support this motion and I call on my colleagues to do same. And in the process, a very proactive measure should be taken to ensure that the repeat of these sharp practices that are going on now in the banking sector, which has turned out to be Nigeria's milk cow or a gold mine that is not unknown to a lot of people. Mr. President, it will be important that this motion should be given an expeditious attention and passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Milai.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Milai, Kogi West. I want to start by appreciating my colleague, Senator Magnus Abe, for this very important motion and for exposing gray areas that many of us will not even pay significant attention to. Mr. President, this motion, I do believe, like Senator Bocha said, desire more than the resolutions of this motion. There is a need to even conduct a public hearing on this issue. Mr. President, illegal deductions from banks is moving from one bank to another. And unfortunately, because we see these deductions as too little, we pay less importance and attention to it. But like as expressed and elucidated by the mover of the motion, by the time this deduction, little drops form an ocean. Billions of naira already have gone down the drain. Arbitrary hidden charges are also there that you do not know about, but these charges are deducted from your money without your consent, and only a personal investigation or auditing of your account or probing of your account can reveal these arbitrary hidden charges. How many Nigerians will call for a rollover of their statement of account? How many Nigerians actually probe annually or every 6 months their bank statements? So these illegal hidden charges, illegal deductions, banks are making tens of billions of naira hundreds of billions of naira illegally from innocent Nigerians. Another area that needs our focus, Mr. President, is the account of dead people. Many a times, because of secrecy, many next of kins do not even know that they are the next of kins to many accounts. And once there is no statement or certificate raised by the family that a particular person is dead, the bank do not communicate the next of kin. Most banks will not even communicate them to ask them to come and take over the account or money deposited in such accounts. So there's a need, Mr. President, to call the attention of the relevant sectors of our economy into this, so that as soon as a man dies, his next of kin is immediately contacted. These monies are kept running into trillions of naira across all the banks in the bank's account, and the bank using it for their own personal interest. Mr. President, finally, on the issue of loans, most times when you take loans from these banks, there are a lot of charges that are not embedded in the conditions or memorandum of understanding you sign in getting these loans. These deductions are also done illegally most times, and you are not aware of it. So all these sharp practices by these banks, I want to believe, deserve more than mere resolutions of the Senate, that a deeper investigation be conducted on this matter to the advantage of the masses and populace of this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. First of all, I have been in banking for over 15 years, and we have to be very, very careful the way we accuse the banks. Mr. President, you were a banker before. You worked in the bank too. I'm sure in the area of charges, you know, a lot of things, not that they are not known, but they have been ignored by the people who are bank customers. Once you enter into a contract with a bank, you know, you sign, you open an account. There are conditions in which these accounts are being operated, but many customers do not even care to look into what terms and conditions of opening bank accounts. Secondly, they do not engage consultants even in opening the bank account, because they don't want consultants to know exactly what they have. Thirdly, sir, in loans, when offers are given, not many customers sit down and look at the terms and conditions of the loans. They are so desperate to sign as quickly as possible. They can sign even their blood and their name, and then, you know, take it over. So by the time the banks come and are following the terms and conditions of the offer, they say, no, I didn't see this one before. I didn't see this, I didn't see that. So even the customers need to be educated, or they need to consult, because offshore banking, customers are told, go and consult experts in how you operate your account. Now I come to the specifics, Mr. Chairman. Now when you talk about advance payment guarantee, the irregularity. Now, when a bank issued an advance payment guarantee, the money comes to the bank. At that point in time, who owns the utilization of these funds? Is it the client who gave out the money, or is it the contractor who is working with the money, or the bank which is holding the contingent liability on the advance payment guarantee? So we have to be very, very careful, you know, how these things, you know, are done. Now, when it comes to savings, interest on credit balances in customers' account. Now, are we talking about savings, or we are talking about current account, or we are talking about call deposits? All these ones are, I agree, I support the motion 100%. We need much more than just resolution of the Senate. We need more and more, we need public hearing on these issues, because they are more fundamental issues than even this, because There are some people who have fat bank accounts. They don't even know that at the end of the month, some small amount of money is debited from their account and credited to the income of the bank so as to show off their income. So I think, Mr. President, I support the last speakers, and I think we should go to more fundamental issue of doing a public hearing on the matter. Thank you very much.
Senator Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. I was tempted to totally agree with my brother and friend, distinguished Senator Yusuf. But somewhere along the line, sir, I have found a convenient way of disagreeing with him. The crux of this motion is not about the contractual obligation between a banker and a customer. It is that some people have misused the power that they thought they have to issue circulars for certain illegal deductions from customers' account, which in itself, under the law, is called breach of fundamental obligation. There is an obligation on the part of the bank to be honest to the customer who approach it for the purpose of opening an account. And therefore, yes, we agree that you have signed, but the issue is, if after signing, you are going to take a fundamental action that relates to the operation of that account, you ought to have told the customer. For example, we woke up one day and we heard that a circular came from CBN that if you withdraw anything above 500,000, you are supposed to pay penalty. Who gave that power? Where is that power derived from? And who is collecting the money and for what? I think the Senate has a responsibility to find out this issue. And I think let us not misunderstand the content from which this motion is being processed. The motion is talking about those who are exercising power they do not have under the law. And the banks subscribing to that power in order to breach their fundamental obligation to the customers. And in doing so, I think this Senate has a responsibility to intervene. Thank you very much.
I'll go to the prayers then. Prayer 1, urge the government to proactively protect customers' rights, eradicate short payments of interest, and end the culture of excess and arbitrary bank charges. These steps, if taken, will reposition the bank to avoid future reoccurrence. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Prayer 2, direct Committee on Banking to conduct an investigative hearing and invite the CBN governors, officials, other stakeholders, such as forensic auditors, MDs or commercial bankers committee, with a view of harmonizing and amending these laws, rules and guidelines that do not adequately protect the customers and give them substantial remedy when overcharged. Yes, amendment sent to Milai.
Dino Milai, Kogi West. My amendment is direct the Committee on Banking to conduct a public hearing instead of investigative hearing. Conduct a public hearing and invite CBN governors, its officials, and other stakeholders, such as forensic auditors, MD and...
Any seconder? Senator Bosha.
Yes, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved that a public hearing be conducted in respect of this matter.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of prayer 2 as amended, that is direct Committee on Banking to conduct a public hearing and invite the CBN governors, officials, and other stakeholders, such as forensic auditors, MDs of commercial banks and bankers committee, with a view of harmonizing and amending these laws, rules and guidelines that do not adequately protect the customers and give them substantial remedy when overcharged. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, mandate the committee to thoroughly investigate CBN and commercial banks' operational charges with a view to finding an enduring solution and a proper consideration for further. Isn't that a repetition? Once it's overtaking my bed. So those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. Nays have it. Any additional prayer? If not, let me thank the Senator for bringing that this motion, very important motion. It's, I think, particularly at these difficult times, every naira is important, and we must be seen to defend the interests of a lot of Nigerians who don't have the voice to defend themselves. As again, The issue here is to get to the bottom of what the laws and guidelines are. I'm sure that they are in line with the law and they have the powers to make such pronouncements. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the consideration of the third order of the day till another legislative day. And in its place, we take the ninth order of the day. So I move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second that we stand down the third order of the day for another legislative day and to be replaced with the ninth order for consideration. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, relying on our standing order 1B, I move that we take the ninth order of the day, place of the third order. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think I have properly seconded it. However, let me once again second it. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on FCT on the 2017 Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that bill was referred to the committee on Thursday, the 25th of January 2018. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Dino Malay, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration.
Senator Dino Malay.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Malay, Kogi West. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory on the bill for an act to amend the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017. I so move.
Senator Victor.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Victor, Anambra Central Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate receive the report of the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory on a bill for an act to amend the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017, SB 598. I so second.
Very well, thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Dino Malay.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Malay, Kogi West. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will recall, in line with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, the Federal Capital Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018 SB 598 was read for the first time on Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2018. The Senate concluded debate on the second reading on Wednesday, the 24th January 2018, and the bill was referred to the Committee on Federal Capital Territory, FCT, for further legislative actions and to report back to on Tuesday, 30th January 2018. In line with Section 62, 88, 89, and 299 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory, FCT, resolved on the modalities to handle the exercise. The committee noted that the FCT Appropriation Act 2017 was passed on the 8th November 2017 and was assented to by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria on 29 December 2017. It is important to also know that the FCT Statutory Appropriation Act only operated for 3 days in 2017 financial year. To this end, the committee is left with no option than to rely on the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as enshrined in Section 59, 81, 122, and 299, which specifically gives authorization for expenditure from the Consolidated Revenue Funds. The Act stipulated that the implementation of the FCT 2017 Statutory Appropriation Act should commence from January 1st, 2017 and end on the 31st of December 2017. The FCT 2017 Statutory Appropriation Act only operated for 3 days in 2017 financial year. The committee observed that FCT has been indicted with complaints of non-payment for infrastructural development, satellite towns development, and the city cleaning services due to budgetary constraints. Recommendation. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the bill for an act to amend the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 on behalf of the committee. I hereby present the recommendations for consideration and passage into law. And Mr. President, I will just want to take you have an appendage where you have the explanatory memorandum as sent by Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Muhammadu Buhari. It reads: the bill seeks to amend the Federal Capital Appropriation Act 2017 in order to extend the implementation year of the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 from 31st December 2017 to March 31st, 2018. Or, my problem there is the communication of Mr. President there said or, and that also has been passed by the House of Representatives. But you know, like I know, Mr. President, that there is no uncertainty in law. So that's all there. I accept the Senate take otherwise or see it as insignificant. I want to wish this opportunity to thank the Senate President and our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve and respectfully recommend the passage of the bill. With this, Mr. President, I seek to lay the report.
All right, go ahead. Very well, thank you. Sir Leader.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolves to the Committee of Supply to consider the report.
Honorable Leader.
Mr. President, I second that the Senate resolve into a Committee of Supply to consider this bill.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any comment? All right. Those in support that clause 1 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Those in support that clause 2 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum. Those in support that this stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Short title. Those in support that short title stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Long title. Those support that long title stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate refer to plenary for the charge report progress.
Mr. Chairman, I second that we refer to plenary to report progress.
Their colleagues don't support that chair now report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Senate Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on FCT on the 2017 FCT Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2018 and approved as follows. Clause 1 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of Supply? Thank you. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I now move that the bill be read the third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the bill be read a third time.
Dear colleagues, those in support that the bill be read a third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Lack of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 in order to extend the implementation year of the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 from 31st December 2017 to 31st March 2018, third reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for act to amend the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 in order to extend the implementation year of the Federal Capital Territory Appropriation Act 2017 from 31st December 2017 to 31st March 2018, third reading taken and passed. Well, I need to thank everybody for the quick passage of this bill that will enable the Federal Capital Territory Administration to continue the implementation of the 2017 Appropriation Act. So this will enable them to provide the necessary services to the inhabitants of FCT and then to meet the obligations to the FCT as well. So I want to thank all of you for making it possible for us to pass this bill this afternoon. Thank you. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Benjamin Uwajumogu on the urgent need to investigate the proliferation of Bitcoin, a form of cryptocurrency, to ascertain the worthiness of same as a form of investment in Nigeria. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Benjamin Uwajumogu to move the motion.
Senator Uwajumogu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Ben Uwajumogu. I represent the good people of Imo North. This is a motion on an urgent need to investigate the proliferation of Bitcoin, a form of cryptocurrency, to ascertain the worthiness of same as a form of investment in Nigeria. The Senate notes with caution the alarming rate at which Bitcoin, a form of digital currency, is being proliferated in Nigeria as one of the best forms of investment. The Senate notes further that this cryptocurrency is openly marketed across the country on local television and radio stations, mostly to Nigerians who do not know any better. Senate notes further with deep concerns that Nigerians are freely advised and even persuaded to invest in this cryptocurrency as it promises quick returns, in certain instances, a triple or quadruple of the invested sum as profit within days. The Senate observes with concern that Google quoted 1 Bitcoin to be the equivalent of 5,706,020 kobo as at 10th December 2017. Aware that JP Morgan, the world-renowned investment bank, in a conference held in New York City, USA, and reported in the US Guardian, noted that the digital currency Bitcoin was only fit for drug dealers and would eventually blow up. This reaffirmed the advice of the German Central Bank and the Reserve Bank of India to their citizens against investing in Bitcoin. The Senate is aware further that Bitcoin has no central bank, does not exist in any tangible form, and is also not subject to any international or local monetary regulation or backed by any established government institution for that matter. The Senate recalls that the MMM bubble of 2016 left millions of Nigerian families broken, devastated, and many businessmen lost all their capital in the phony scheme.
States are aware that the primary objective of the government is to protect the life and welfare of its citizens, including their investment. The Senate is concerned that the federal government has neither taken a decisive stand against this investment scheme nor expended resources in orientating Nigerians on the dangers of Bitcoin as a store of value, given how much the operators encourage Nigerians to invest in it. Though a quick search on the internet showed a report of the central bank advising against it. The Senate is also concerned that as Nigeria is recovering from recession, it will be devastating for citizens to lose their hard-earned money on schemes they could easily have avoided had they been properly advised by government. The Senate is therefore worried that the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, Nigeria Deposit Insurance Commission, the National Orientation Agency are not doing enough to educate Nigerians on the investment risk inherent in Bitcoin. The Senate is cognizant that by failing, refusing, or neglecting to educate the citizenry of the dangers inherent in investing in unverified schemes, especially one orchestrated by foreign syndicates, Nigerians run the risk of losing their life savings, and the economy runs the risk of losing the much-needed forex to foreign criminals. The Senate is further worried that the wonder banks like Bitcoin traders, Swiss golden traders, etc., has carried on their businesses unchecked in Nigeria, most to the detriment of the citizens of Nigeria. The Senate is saddened that apart from the skirmishes of warnings issued by the regulatory authorities, efforts are not made to regulate the activities of these unverified investment schemes. The Senate notes the need for concerted efforts of the federal government to protect the economic welfare of Nigerian citizens from unverified and highly risky investment schemes. Just this morning, Your Excellency, it was reported on cable TV that the Japanese company Coin Invest Incorporated lost $530 million to hackers just this morning on CNN. The Senate, therefore, accordingly resolved, 1, to urge the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NDIC, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange to make an unequivocal statement across all the news platforms in all dialects on the dangers of Bitcoin as a store of value in Nigeria. 2, call on the National Orientation Agency to spread the news against all forms of wonder banks and Ponzi schemes operating in Nigeria. And then 3, call on the members of the Senate Committee on Banking and other financial institutions to investigate the viability of Bitcoin as a form of investment and come up with recommendations on how to regulate its uses, trade, and report to the Senate within 2 weeks. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Mr. President, my very distinguished and eminent colleagues, I rise to second this motion so ably moved by my distinguished brother. Mr. President, the danger that our citizens face when they go into some of these schemes without proper advice and without the access to proper information on the dangers of some of these schemes is too well known to some of us. As a young man who grew up in Port Harcourt, I remember the case of Umana in Port Harcourt in those days, which resulted in several very responsible citizens committing suicide because they were put in a position where all their life savings dissolved and evaporated overnight because of the promise of quick money. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the recent case of MMM in this country is still very fresh in our memory. When it started, a lot of people felt that it was an easy way for them to double their money. And in the process of trying to double their money, a lot of people lost not just their own money, but people were actually stealing or borrowing money from their employers, from places, from their churches, to believing that they would double the money and get it back. And in the process, a lot of viable businesses and families also went under. We are back in another era now of another Ponzi scheme. The difficulty in this thing, this modern one now, is that it is being done on the internet. So there is no office, there is no law, there is no regulation, there is nobody to arrest, there is even nobody to question. The only true remedy that we can have is to make sure that Nigerians have access to proper information as to the origin of some of these things. Our people tend to think that when these things are on the internet, they think maybe it is being done in America or it is being done legally anywhere. People do not understand that in the modern world, there are entities that do not exist legally anywhere. And this Bitcoin schemes is one of such things. So that we give our citizens proper information, let those who are going into it go into it knowing fully well the dangers to which they are subjecting themselves and their families by putting themselves into these schemes. I want to thank my distinguished brother, Senator Ben, for bringing this motion. And I want to urge the Senate that we support this motion as a way of trying to ensure that Nigerians have access to proper information in taking financial decisions. I therefore second this motion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. I will tell you a story. About 3 months ago, someone was in my local government and succeeded in bringing almost all the big men in my local government together and then promised them that whoever gave, that he was going to counterfund some money so that people can do business. And the minimum deposit, I think, was 10,000. If you pay 10,000, he will give you 100,000. Just in the Umana, the same Umana position. And unfortunately, he went so far before I knew. And I knew because some of my constituents, again, wanted me to borrow them money so that they can put into that. And I told them that it's not possible because there is no how you can put down 10,000 and then somebody who has worked for 90,000 will bring 100,000 and give you. So Nigerians are subjected to all these scams all over. I think the Senate needs to take a very serious proactive position now. One, to advise, maybe to come up with something by way of guidance to Nigerians as it relates to this kind of investment. I knew when somebody was running all over me to do this Bitcoin. And Mr. President, I don't even do internet banking. I want to count my money myself. So, because I am safer remaining an analog person than going digital. So I think the motion is apt and needs to be supported by this Senate. And we must find a way of coming out with something standard that will guide Nigerians in investment of this nature. Otherwise, what we are bargaining for is that people who have worked so hard to make some savings, instead of having the benefit of enjoying that saving again, we allow a loose society where one criminal will just go and pop off something and take away that saving and return them back to square one. It's not nice, it's not ethical, and I think that we must intervene in this kind of situation. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I want to say this is another very important motion by my colleague Ben. Mr. President, many lost their lives due to MMM. In every civilized society, no country, no security agency, no intelligence agency will allow programs and financial scams like MMM, Bitcoins and all this to operate within the borders of their country without scrutiny. It's impossible for you to take anything to the United States, to Canada, to operate without the approval of your intelligence community. But Nigeria is so docile that everything comes in and people are defrauded. Many of our family members, friends, lost a lot of money to MMM. Mr. President, if it's a lottery, it ought to go through, that's why we have the National Lottery Commission. If it's a form of exchange of currency, we have the Central Bank of Nigeria, we have many other regulators of our economy to regulate that. But Mr. President, this motion is coming because the Senate, by the Constitution and by our oath, have the responsibility to defend the people of this country. I seek the indulgence of Mr. Senate President to read Section 16D of the Constitution. If I have your permission, Mr. President, I read. The state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, D, without prejudice to the right of any person to participate in areas of the economy within the major sectors of the economy, the states have the fundamental to protect the right of every citizen to engage in any economic activity outside the sector of the economy. This economic activity is outside the major sector of the economy. So it is the responsibility of the state to protect our citizens from being defrauded by foreigners and scams like Bitcoin. So, Mr. President, we are within our constitutional ambit of calling on relevant government agencies, and this is the purpose of setting up the National Orientation Agency to educate Nigerians on these type of scams that will come, so that we don't keep quiet when these activities are going on. And I think the Senate should come out strong on this, so that by the time the Senate come out strong on it, Nigerians themselves will realize that because most human beings generally, Mr. President, we are greedy. We practice greediocracy. Government of the greedy, by the greedy, and for the greedy. Everybody wants to make money, but it is the responsibility of this Senate to caution, to educate, to inform the populace of this country so that they are not defrauded. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Okay, Senator Bach. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, the proliferation of the Bitcoin business is a further confirmation of the gullibility of Nigerians. Otherwise, the MMM saga had not died down, and suddenly this one came up from nowhere. You will not understand the danger or dangers posed by this scheme until one of them, who is well-schooled, confront you and begin to sell this business to you. You'll understand what is happening, how some people fall flat on their faces. An Israeli met me with this business. It just took the grace of God to save me. Because if you are conscious of the fact that you need to consult before you go into any business, you will hardly fall free. So, my own take, Mr. President, is the CBN should go beyond just, I agree with Senator Ben that the appropriate agency, of course in this case the CBN, to make an unequivocal statement. I think we need to back it with a legislative instrument too. We are aware, in fairness to the CBN, they came out clearly to say that whoever is involved in this business is a gambler. But again, you look, we're in a society where gambling itself is also allowed. People go to gamble without hindrance. Gambling is allowed, and yet we know that it is a dangerous scheme or adventure. So I think if we go a step further to come out with an legislative intervention, it will be better, because outside the policy statement, somebody can even go to court. So I think this motion is quite timely, as said by the speakers before me, but my own addition is that let us explore a legislative intervention to ensure that we put an end to this scheme that Nigerians, in collaboration with foreigners, engage in to defraud our people who are very, very vulnerable by nature. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you so much. I want to join the rest of our colleagues in thanking Senator Wachimog for bringing this up. Yes, we are telling the central bank and other agencies to do their work of enlightening the public in matters such as this. But I believe that this debate itself is sufficient enlightenment because people are listening to us and it will be reported. This is also our own contribution to enlightening our people on the danger of this kind of big scam. And we need to also have to understand that anything that promises quick wealth can only lead to destruction. And the people who are victims are usually people who are desperate, people who are greedy, you know, and then people who lack contentment. So, and I believe that we should be able to avoid such trap. So I want to thank you for bringing this up, and I'm sure that by the time the agencies do their work, and our committee also, you know, further enlighten the public, you know, and provide us a way forward to avoid this kind of scam, I'm sure that they would have done a great service to our country. So having said this, distinguished colleagues, I think we should just go quickly to the prayers. Prayer 1. Urge the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NDIC, and the Nigeria Stock Exchange to make an unequivocal statement across all the news platforms in all dialects on the dangers of Bitcoin as a store of value in Nigeria. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against saying nay, the ayes have it. Prayer 2. Call on the National Orientation Agency to spread the news against all forms of wonder banks and Ponzi schemes operating in Nigeria. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against saying nay, the ayes have it. Prayer 3. Call on the members of the Senate Committee on Banking and Other Financial Institutions to investigate the viability of Bitcoin as a form of investment, come up with recommendations on how to control its use, trade, and report to the Senate within 2 weeks. Those in support of this say aye. Those against say nay. Okay. Senate leader. The nays have it. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Theodore Oji on the need to deploy scanning machines and adequate security personnel in all the railway stations across the Federation. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Theodore Oji to move the motion.
Agenda Global.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Senate President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator T.A. Oji Ochendo. I represent Abia Central. The topic of my motion is the need to deploy scanning machines and adequate security personnel in all the railway stations across the Federation with a view to checkmating terrorist attack and other criminal activities in order to protect the lives and properties of railway users in Nigeria. The Senate notes that the railway stations across the country are porous and can easily be attacked by terrorists and other criminals. The Senate further notes that there is no adequate scanning machines and security personnel in our railway stations. The Senate observes that the inability of the government to deploy scanning machines and adequate security personnel in our railway stations is a security threat. Hence, terrorists and other criminals can easily take advantage of it to cause mayhem in the country. The Senate regrets that railway users in the country are at risk and at the mercy of terrorists and other criminals due to the inability of the government to deploy scanning machines and adequate security personnel. The Senate acknowledges that the deployment of scanning machines and adequate security personnel in railway stations across the Federation will go a long way in securing not only railway users but also properties. Your Excellency, this is a practical experience. I decided to undertake a tour in one of the stations from one station to the other. So I went in, I paid, I looked around, there was no security check. Unlike when you are traveling by air. At the airports, they will check you, you remove your shoes. In fact, they would like to naked you so that they will know that you don't have any bomb. But this is not what happens at the railway station. Even at the railway station, when I entered, I disguised myself, but I was unfortunate to meet two people who knew me. And they asked, what are you doing here? That was the question they asked me. That is to say, am I not supposed to be in the railway coach? What are you doing here? So when the people who were around me had that, in fact, they started moving away from me. They started moving away from me. As if you are going about. Yes, as if I am I'm carrying a disease. But when I looked around and I saw that there was no single check, and I saw the caliber of people that are using the railway system, and these are people who have got the voice. They can't speak for themselves, so they need somebody to speak for them. And that is what informed me to come and raise this motion. That now that you have this security threat in this country, they need to be protected. That's a very porous place for any Boko Haram person who wants to cause mayhem or vengeance on Nigerians to go. Just drop one bomb and thousands are dead. So the issue of scanning machines in that place, at least if they are not even working, when they see that you are scanning, at least those people will be conscious of the fact that something is being done instead of leaving the place very, very porous. Therefore, Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues, that's why I brought this to your notice. It's people like you and me that should speak for this caliber of people. And these are the people who vote for us. They are the people who vote for us.
Okay, are you done? Put by your microphone.
Accordingly, Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues, the Senate urges the federal government through the Ministry of Transport to deploy adequate scanning machines and security personnel at the railway stations across the Federation. And finally, to mandate the Committee on Transportation to ensure full compliance. And that is the end of my motion, Your Excellency. Thank you and God bless you.
Okay, Senator Gobi, intend to second it?
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I stand to support this motion because there is, in fact, there is need for adequate security in all the railway stations we have in this country, particularly because they are now all in the villages, they are all in the bushes. Not only to deploy scanning machine and then security personnel, but you also need to have a well-structured security officers within that area, so that before you go in and then board your own train, then you have been well checked, you don't have anything, you don't carry any bomb threat or whatever it is. So I think it is important. This is very, very interesting. In fact, it does not even require much discussion. We just go ahead and put the question and then we move. Thank you very much, Excellency.
Thank you. I agree with you. I think this is a straightforward motion. Just to tell us, change to that, I think whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So we cannot go and set up machines that are not working and pretend to be helping our citizens. So we should be able to make sure that whatever machine we deploy will be working real time and all the time. So because as they say in my place, if you're a hunter and you go to the forest to hunt and you have a gun and there's no bullet on it, and you know very well there's no bullet, you cannot be deceiving the animals. I think you're also deceiving yourself. So I think we should make sure that whatever we do in this country, we do it extremely well to the best international standards. So it's something to worth doing, and must do it very, very well. So having said this, colleagues, let's look at the prayers. Prayer 1, urge the federal government through the Ministry of Transportation to deploy adequate scanning machines and security personnel at the railway stations across the Federation. Those who support this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, mandate the Committee on Transportation to ensure full compliance. Those who support this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So congratulations, Senator Oji, for this successful motion. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, I want to move that we stand down the consideration of the 6 and 7 orders of the day due to the demand or request by the sponsors of the motion till another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, I rise to second that we stand down the items as mentioned by the leader for another legislative day. I so second.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion say aye. Those against saying the ayes have it. Say leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 8th and last order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Andrew Uchendu on the failure of capturing 108 civil servants under IPPIS for 2 years. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Andrew Uchendu to move the motion.
Mr. Uchendu.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I am Andrew Uchendu. I represent Rivers Senatorial District. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I here present a motion on failure of capturing 108 civil servants under IPs for 2 years. Mr. President, the Senate is aware that Section 1531 of the provides for the establishment of the Federal Civil Service Commission. The Senate is also aware that the third schedule, Part 1, Sub 2, Sub 1, 2, and 1A, the Commission shall have powers to appoint persons to offices into the Federal Civil Service, and B, to dismiss and exercise disparate control over persons holding such offices. The Senate is informed that in 2014, about 167 young Nigerians were recruited by the Federal Civil Service Commission and deployed to various ministries, including Federal Ministry of Health. The Senate is further informed that in compliance with the laid down procedures, the 167 newly recruited officers were verified and authenticated by the Federal Civil Service Commission for capturing. Alarmed that of the 167 officers, about 39 of them were extracted from the list and were captured by the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information Systems platform under the cover of President awardees and physically challenged. But the Senate is worried that the remainder of the 108 civil servants, young Nigerians, across the length and breadth of this country, have been working since then without any salaries because they have not been captured. The Senate will recall that their colleagues who were recruited along with others in 2014 and deployed to the Ministries of Education, Agriculture, Interior, Women Affairs have been captured and have been receiving their salaries duly. The Senate is therefore unhappy that even with the letter of intervention by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Health to the Chairman, Federal Civil Service Commission, on the 18th December 2017, the 108 civil servants have still not been captured and they still go to work. The Senate accordingly resolves to direct the Senate Committee on Establishment to find out why 108 officers of the 167 recruited and deployed to the Federal Ministry of Health cannot be captured by IPPS and their entitlements paid accordingly and report back to the Senate in 2 weeks. Mr. President, this is a straightforward bill. It does not, it affects both geographical zones, it affects both religion, and it affects man and woman. I met these young men and...
Sorry, are they only in the Ministry of Health? You said Ministry of Health. All of them are Ministry of Health. All those affected. Put on your microphone.
The Permanent Secretary recently wrote to the Federal Civil Service Commission, please capture these persons. And I personally had to call the acting chairman of Federal Civil Service Commission. Because when I was in the House of Representatives, I had to oversight this very important agency. And I put the call across. And the acting chairman is telling me that if the Senate will come to their aid, then what type of aid? And I think a resolution of this parliament will do justice to this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Okay, Senator Lidani. I think, distinguished, I don't think that only his Minister of Health that is involved. I think there are other people from other agencies and ministries who are here. So when we go to the prayer, somebody needs to amend it appropriately, so that we don't have a situation where somebody comes up tomorrow with this kind of motion for another ministry. So it will be comprehensive. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani. I represent from the South. I rise to second this motion. And in doing so, I would like to inform this Senate that there are other agencies that are similarly affected. I know the Federal Minister of Education has quite a number of candidates that are employed but are yet to be captured and are yet to receive their salaries. I think this is very unfair and it shows incompetence on the part of the agencies concerned. This Senate should frown seriously on this attitude and direct immediately that the affected persons should be captured and then be paid their emoluments, including arrears that they have earned. I therefore rise to second this motion and ask my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
All right, we're going to the prayer, but does anybody have an idea of how to rephrase the prayer to be comprehensive?
If I may, direct the Senate Committee on Establishment to find out why 100 officers of 167 recruited and deployed to the Federal Ministry of Health and other government agencies. So we include other government agencies after Federal Ministry of Health. Other government agencies deployed to the Federal Ministry of Health and other government agencies have not been captured by IPIE.
Is anybody seconding the amendment? Yes, Senator Watch.
Yes, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the amendment as proposed by Senator Lidani.
Distinguished colleagues, the prayer is Senate do resolve to direct the Senate Committee on Establishment to find out why 108 officers of the 167 officers recruited and deployed to the Ministry of Health and other MDAs cannot be captured by IPs and the entitlements paid accordingly and report back to the Senate in 2 weeks. In support of this prayer as amended, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Say leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn till tomorrow, Wednesday, 31st day of January 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do adjourn for tomorrow, 31st at 10 a.m. I so second.
Before I put the question, just a quick announcement. Conference Committee on the Federal University will carry establishment bill. Senator Barao Jibri, Chairman. Senator Emmanuel Bwacha, Member. Senator Remi Tinubu, Member. Senator Clifford Odea, Member. Senator Shaba Lafiaji, Member. Senator Samuel, Member. Those in support of the motion that Senate do now adjourn to Wednesday, the 31st day of January 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate is accordingly adjourned.